a generation who is deviated, maybe physically, maybe mentally. So whatever thought is given to us through our religion, it has a very scientific base. The thing is that we need to understand that. So when we were talking about conception, conception has to be between two healthy people who are free of any mental illness and who are free of any physical illnesses. So that's why these days a medical test is being advised that both the girl and the boys, they must get their blood tests got done. It is for our betterment. The thing is, as Pakistani society, we are not far-fetched people. We don't far-see. We are not far-sighted. We are just fancying everything. As the girl is older enough, 18 years, 19 years, we think of marrying her. And then when she's married, we are planning that she's going to have a baby. If that arrival of baby is delayed, then there is a pressure of the parents, from the in-laws and the parents, that why aren't you settling down? So these factors, we just fancy it. Marriage is a fancy thing for us. Giving birth to babies is a fancy thing for us. We do not take it as a commitment, as a responsibility. Getting married is a big commitment and a big responsibility, because you're going to rear an offspring, a generation who has to be healthy enough mentally and physically. It is for your benefit and it is for the benefit of the country, and it is for the betterment of your nation as well. It's a long process. If you keep on thinking about the number of thalassemia patients, the number of cancer patients, the number of other diseases is on a higher side of increase, only because we are very, very ignorant people. We do not want to learn more just because we want to label it. Oh, haram, haram, haram. Please, for God's sake, open your eyes and try and understand it. If you don't go for Western literature, please open the Quran and see what Quran is telling us. We have not understood Quran. That is why we are so quick in labeling. There are simple things that we do not understand. Suppose there is an ayah. Iqra is what? When we talk about language, we have divided the language skills. First it is listening, and then it is speaking. And when the child is being admitted in a school, what is the first thing that the child learns? Reading. Writing comes later. You have to work hard, you have to go around a cycle that prepares the child for writing. So, reading or speaking, that comes before, and the muscular thing, the writing process comes later. First this listening, the speaking and the writing. Allama al-insana malam ya'lam. And what did Allah taught us? Speaking, bayan. So when we start reading Quran, by understanding it, we will come to know that everything is so scientific. There could be two types of reaction. Either the child will throw tantrums, he'll be violent, he will scream. The other weak child, he will not throw tantrums, he'll just go sit in a corner. So the deviated children, the strong type, they are prone to violence, aggressive, they have mental confusion, instability of purpose. They will go to some work, take it, leave it unfinished, go to some other activity, take it and leave it unfinished. And then extravagant imaginings. They can make up stories as well. Not only the strong children can make up stories, even the weak children can make up stories also. So this is the characteristic that is found in strong children and weak children, that they can lie and they can make stories. And then they have extravagant imagining. See, I am a Superman, I did this, I flew in the sky. So they can imagine what they cannot do in real, what they are denied of doing here in the real situation, they will do it here in their imagination. And then they are very possessive. If they want to have something, they will have it. They will bully the other child. They will hit the child and they'll just grab it. And that is selfishness. Everything for that child. Because the parents were there, they did not train that child that if something is there, it is for everybody to be shared. Whatever was brought was given to the child. Okay, take it, for you, for you, for you. And he becomes selfish, possessive, and greedy. Becomes greedy. So you have to train the child that whatever is there, it has to be followed. The rules have to be followed. And at the table, they are very greedy. They want to eat everything, not to give to anybody. If the child was given an ideal environment where there were no obstacles, he was introduced to constructive activities, he was allowed to get involved in the daily routines that are being carried out, daily routines such as EPL, filling up the bottle, dusting, grooming, folding, things like that you do, you have to let your children also do. You will be helping the child because he'll be developing the coordination of his large muscles and small muscles. This child will be a happy child because he was provided with an environment where there were no obstacles and his rights were acknowledged. He was being acknowledged as somebody important as the other family members. And then coming back to the weak children, their health may be weak, physically they'll be very fragile, they'll be lazy, because everything has been done for them. Okay, you sit down, I'll do it for you. Even they're not allowed to eat themselves. It is said, a child who is independent in eating, you lay out a table, give him a plate and a spoon and the water, let him eat, his movements will be coordinated, hand and eye coordination will be there, no matter he'll be dropping the crumbs here and there, but he will be learning it. Whereas if somebody else is doing it, so the opportunity of getting coordinated will not be there. Similarly, if he wants to pour the water, so we are scared that he might drop the glass, he might break it. So we are going to pour the water for him. So he is being disturbed. When we are doing all this, you are making him, you are helping him to be a lazy, a couch potato. You are doing everything for him. So these are the weaknesses, and then this kind of group, the weak children, they have less appetite because they have fears. They have fears of darkness because we keep scaring our children. Who's your heart? See, I gave him the work, but after finishing it, he is becoming mischievous again. So you have to be on your toes all the time. You have to keep the child engaged. And what will be the role of the adult? That you have to keep your prejudices aside, your anger aside, and smartly you have to introduce him to the activity. And when he finishes that activity and you see, okay, the deviation is reoccurring again, you have to be prepared and just introduce him to the other activity. And as soon as you see that the child is misbehaving or deviation is occurring, you have to interrupt. You have to interrupt by introducing him to the other activity. This is how you can address the deviation and normality.
will be talking, and you will find out just now, will focus on the development of language from 0 to 3. That is how it will develop naturally at home, and if you are a Montessori, you will know. And then how is language introduced in a Montessori school from 3 to 6. The language team will be Mrs. Nusrat Fakar, can you come up here? Mrs. Alia Nusrat, Miss Amina Rafiq, the coordinator Miss Sadaf Kamran if she's around, and of course the language volunteers who stayed till so late in the evening and they have transformed the hall like that. So we have a group session with the volunteers on the last day of the presentation, but right now this is the team behind it, and of course without the students it's nothing. And you will be seeing them, hearing them and watching them. So if we are done with the presentation of distribution, Amina, 5 more minutes. Okay, the souvenirs are being distributed to you. In the meantime, kindly put mom's focus on the audience and all. The souvenirs distribution is who is responsible for this page?
Assalamu alaikum. So the lecture, that the workshop or participate or make it successful without the element of language involved in it? No. Why? Because until unless you're able to understand, until unless someone was saying something, and until unless whatever this person was saying, you were able to hear that and you were able to understand that, you would not have been able to absorb what was being told to you, right? So today, because language was there, so today I am going to elaborate on what is language. What is the importance of language? Why we use language? What are the functions of language? Unfortunately, I will first point out one very important thing. Why am I going to talk about this? Because we are not realizing the importance, the value of our language, and the way we are dealing with it. It is very frustrating, it is very disappointing. So, and language, when I talk about, does not only mean English, because it is there that when we talk about a caliber person, we talk about the English language. No. Whatever language it is important because it depicts, it portrays, it identifies a culture, a certain nation, and that language is connected with that. First of all, I'll start with Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. What about this word? Who created this word? Allah Ta'ala. When Allah created this word, He created from the point of 0. The world was a zero thing. There was nothing in this world. The beauty that exists around you, and which is quoted in Surah Rahman, none of these blessings, none of these ni'matein were there. The world was a zero thing. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, Kun, and the world was created with all its beauty, with all its finishing, with all its loving existence or appearance that you are seeing at. And then Allah created 2 human beings, Adam and Eve, Adam or Hawa, right? Which everyone believes that there was a couple that initiated the world, that started the world. Adam and Hawa were created, and they were the first persons to dwell in this world, to live in this world, to come in this world. But were they gifted with the language also? Is language a gift of nature?
Yes.
Is it a gift of nature? No. Language is not a gift of nature. Had it been a gift of nature, the minute a baby had been born, for example, my grandson, the minute he was born, he said, "Hi, Nani, how are you? See, I'm here." Had this been a gift, it would have been like this. The minute the child was born, he would speak language. Language was taken, evolved, developed with needs. When Adam and Hawa were born, then their children came in, they needed to communicate. They needed to interact. For that purpose, language gradually started developing. Why do we need this language? What is the importance of language? It is needed to develop a bonding between people. That day also I had said that we are having different languages in our community: Gujarati, Punjabi, Sindhi, Pushto, Saraiki, Hindko. There are many languages. But then there is one language which binds you into a nation. These other languages, they make small communities. Language is like a wall which encircles or encompasses a certain community. But then there is a certain language which builds a wall around that whole nation. All those small communities, they become a whole nation with one language. This was needed so that we could interact, we could communicate, we could have a social rapport. So language started evolving. What did language begin with first? It started with kinship. What is kinship? Kinship, khandan, family. Now I talk about, tell me the names that you use for mama and your ammi and abba. What names do you use for them? Mama, baba, ammi, abu, papa, ammi, mom, dad. Now in Urdu, what are those? Ammi, abu, ma, bab, amma, abba, right? Baba, mama. Then in English, dad, mom, mommy, daddy, mama, dada. All right. Mom, dad. Then in Hindi, you talk about Hindi language, pita, mata, pita. And then you talk about the dada, nana, mom, dadi, nani, chacha. Very interesting that all these language are a combination of two sounds: ma, ba, ma, na, da. How come only these sounds are there? Because when the child starts speaking, these are the first sounds that the child takes out. Ma, ba, da. These are called monosyllables, single sound words. And the child, sometimes when the child must have said Baba, and the father must have said Baba, Papa, and the mother said no, Mama. So whatever, and because Mama and Baba were the first ones, so what first sounds are produced, they were linked with Mama and Baba. And then whatever relations were surrounding, whatever sound the child started producing, they were linked with those. The first monosyllables, they started with them. And they were linked with those, and now you note all the names, all the terms used for kinship are linked with these monosyllables. Are you understanding? See? And then gradually when people started migrating from one place to another, they took these names with them, and then more words started developing. But how did the more words started developing? How? How come? Some elements must have been there. First of all, how did these sounds come? The child is born. When the child is born, there is no language. No language at all. And he is going to need something to help him develop those languages. He is hearing right when the child is in the womb. When the child is in the mother's womb, the child starts hearing. The auditory sense is the first sense that develops in the child, and that too starts developing in the 7th, 8th month. The sense of hearing develops. The child is hearing. The child is understanding. And many of you must have heard that the mother who is very blessed enough, she recites holy verses during pregnancy, and when the child is able to speak, he knows many of those verses because he has been hearing them. For development of language, two centers are very important: the sensorial center and the motor center. Sensorial center, which is connected with the hearing. Ear is one big part of that. Motor center, all those which are needed